We live in a world that's just a constant flood of information. Nonstop data, sights, sounds, it can feel totally overwhelming. But what if I told you there's a fundamental tool your mind uses every single second to make sense of it all? Well, that tool is abstraction, and it's how we find precision in a world that often feels like pure chaos.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? Every single day, we're trying to pick out that one clear signal from all the background noise. This whole explainer is about how we do that, not just by accident, but as a deliberate and really powerful way of thinking.
So there's actually a name for this chaos we're all trying to deal with: experiential entropy. You can think of it as the villain of our story. It's all the raw, unfiltered reality hitting us at once, making it almost impossible to see any patterns or build any solid knowledge. It's that feeling of just being lost in all the details.
Okay, so if entropy is the chaos, what's our hero? You guessed it, it's abstraction. This is the mental tool we use to tame that chaos, to bring some order to that flood of information so we can start building some real understanding. Now, a lot of people hear abstraction and think it just means being vague or fuzzy. But it's actually the exact opposite. It's an active process. You are deliberately filtering out the noise, all the distracting stuff, so that the important signal can finally become clear. It is all about focus.
So, how does this thing actually work? Well, abstraction isn't just one single trick. It's more like a whole toolkit of mental techniques. We're going to crack it open and look at 4 of the most powerful ones we use to turn messy reality into clear knowledge. First up, we've got the abstraction of identification. Think about the word chair. In reality, every single chair is unique, right? It's got different materials, a different design, maybe some scuffs and scratches. But to understand the idea of a chair, we ignore all those unique details and group them all under one concept. This is how we form categories, turning infinite variety into a single, super useful idea. Next in the toolkit is the abstraction of indistinguishability. This one is all about consciously deciding to ignore things. I mean, if you want to study how trees grow in a forest, you can't possibly measure every single insect, every gust of wind, or the pH of every inch of soil. You'd go crazy. So instead, you have to create a focused universe of study by deciding which things just don't matter for your question. This is what keeps us from getting completely buried in sensory overload.
Now let's see how this stuff gets really serious in science. The next 2 techniques, idealization and translation, they pretty much work as a team. Idealization is where we simplify reality to make it fit a model. Like a frictionless surface in physics class. It doesn't actually exist in the real world, but it's an absolutely essential simplification to get the math to work. And then, translation takes that idealized concept and turns it into the language of science, like an equation or a diagram. This is the magic step that bridges the gap between our messy world and a clean, testable theory. And this leads us to the most surprising and, honestly, the most powerful idea in this whole explainer. You might think that using all these tools, ignoring details, simplifying things, would make us less precise, but in fact, it unlocks a totally new and much more honest kind of precision. This quote just nails it. We usually think of precision as, hitting a perfect bullseye, a single perfect point, but this flips that idea on its head. Real precision isn't about pretending you're perfect. It's about being intellectually honest about what you know and, just as important, what you don't know. It's about drawing the lines.
So on one hand, you've got the old goal, this impossible mission to find one single perfect number, which totally ignores the fact that every measurement has some uncertainty. But on the other hand, you've got the much more honest and way more useful goal, something called an interval image. This is a defined acceptable range that straight up acknowledges and includes any potential error.
So what does this interval image look like in the real world? It's as simple as this. Instead of claiming the answer is exactly 100, we say it's 100 plus or minus 2. That one little expression is incredibly powerful. It tells us our best guess is 100, but we're being honest that the true value could be anywhere between 98 and 102. Now that is real, honest-to-goodness precision.
And there's even a formal name for this whole concept: gnosiological precision. It's the perfect bookends to our story, right? We started with the problem, the chaos of experiential entropy, and we're ending with the solution. This kind of precision beats that entropy by defining what we know not as a perfect point, but as an interval that clearly tells us its own limits.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway?
Ultimately, abstraction isn't just some technique for scientists. It's the fundamental art of thinking. It's literally how we navigate the world.
So, when you put it all together, you can see just how powerful this is. Abstraction is what lets us cut through the noise of daily life and form the clear ideas we need to think. It's the bedrock for building scientific models we can actually test, and it leads us to that more honest and powerful kind of precision. At its heart, it's the engine that transforms raw, messy reality into knowledge we can actually use.
And that brings me to my final thought for you. This is not just some theory, it's a practical tool for your own life. Think about managing a complex project at work, or just trying to understand a difficult story in the news. So I'll leave you with this question. What chaos in your world needs the clarity of abstraction?